Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News, and I got another of my In the News shows. I got a few other things to talk about as well, but I'm going to start right out with the news. And today, there was news out that Teck and Anglo-American, sorry, this was the other day. Teck and Anglo-American to combine through merger of equals to form a global critical minerals champion. Outstanding, some of the highlights are outstanding value creation through at-market merger of equals. Anglo Tech is expected to offer more than 70% of copper exposure and outstanding further growth optionality embedded. US 800 million in pre-tax recurring annual synergies. Additional 1.4 billion annual underlying earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. Uplift expected from synergies between the adjacent Calawisi and Quebrada Blanca operations on an average pre-tax annual basis from 2030 to 2049. Strong balance sheet underpinned by a larger, more diversified asset and cash flow base, including premium iron ore and zinc, enhanced global capital markets footprint, primarily listing on the London Stock Exchange, with listings on the JSE, TSX, and new NYSE, headquartered in Canada and committed to the heritage of both companies and their significant business leadership in Canada, South Africa, and the UK. Special dividend to Anglo-American shareholders of US 4.5 billion ahead of completion. Anglo-American shareholders to own 62.4% and Teck shareholders to own 37.6% of Anglo Tech PLC immediately post completion. Merger subject to customary closing and regulatory conditions. Boards of Anglo American and Teck unanimously support and recommend the merger. It's quite a big event. Teck, as a guy who grew up in mining in Vancouver, Teck Resources was our big champion. And in Vancouver, I watched them grow from a smaller company to a much larger company. Anglo American has a long history of being or one of the largest mining companies in the world, and the two of them coming together is quite interesting. Both Anglo American and Teck believe the merger will be highly attractive for both company shareholders and stakeholders. Anglo Tech will hold an industry-leading portfolio of producing operations, including six world-class copper assets, alongside high-quality premium iron ore and zinc businesses. Anglo Tech will be one of the world's largest copper producers and will benefit from some of the world's highest quality copper endowments with major brownfield and greenfield copper development projects located in attractive and well-established mining jurisdictions to further grow the business. They talk about the merger. Here's the CEO of Anglo American. He commented, and I quote, "We are unlocking outstanding value both in the near and longer term, forming a global critical minerals champion with focus, agility, capabilities, and culture that have characterized both companies for so long. Having made such significant progress with Anglo American's portfolio transformation, which has already added substantial value for our shareholders over the past year, now is the optimal time to take this next strategic step to accelerate our growth. We have a unique opportunity to bring together two highly regarded mining companies whose portfolios and capabilities are deeply complementary while also sharing a common set of values. We are all committed to preserving and building on the proud heritages of both companies, both in Canada as Anglo Tech, the combined company national natural headquarters, and in South Africa, where our commitments to investment and national priorities endure. Together, we are propelling Anglo Teck to the forefront of our industry in terms of value accretive growth and responsibly produce critical minerals. End quote. Jonathan Price, who's the CEO of Teck, commented, and I quote, this merger of two highly complementary portfolios will create a leading global critical minerals champion headquartered in Canada, a top five global copper producer with exceptional mining and processing assets located in across Canada, the United States, Latin America, and South Africa. It is a natural progression of our strategy and portfolio simplification, which created a platform to enable exactly this sort of transformative transaction, bringing together our world-class copper assets, premium iron ore, and zinc operations, and an outstanding pipeline of high-quality projects provides enormous resiliency and optionality. This transaction will create significant economic opportunity in Canada while positioning Anglo Teck to deliver sustainable long-term value for shareholders and all stakeholders, end quote. Both Anglo American and Teck had been the target of rumored and formal takeover offers, and they both rejected those. Teck has been a sought after asset for a long time, company, but management had sort of rebuffed all those overtures. And I kind of never thought Teck would be merged with another company like this. And I could probably say the same thing about Anglo American. And so it's a very interesting merger of equals that it's portrayed as, and they will be a copper dominant company. And I'm very bullish on copper. So this is an interesting transaction to say the least. Now let's take a look at Teck's new or stock performance. And as you can see, it had been in a downtrend, but this news announcement saw it pop significantly above the 50-day moving average. And some of the scuttlebutt that I'm hearing, and I think it's more than scuttlebutt, is that maybe there could be other suitors for Teck. Now they're clearly on sale or clearly open to a merger. And so it's interesting. We could see others come in, or we could see the transaction go through with Anglo and Anglo American and Teck becoming Anglo Teck. It's hard to say what's going to happen in these kind of transactions, but what stands out to me a lot is the focus on copper. 70% of the company will be about copper. And I'm very bullish going forward on copper. And there's just not a lot of real focused major mining companies that, 70% of their assets are in copper. And so they also give you some other exposure to critical minerals as well. And copper is the most critical of all the minerals. So yeah, this is an interesting transaction, and we'll be watching it closely to see what comes of it. Meridian Mining had news out, and I wanted to talk about that as well. Meridian drills further high-grade gold, copper, silver, and zinc mineralization at Santa Elena and opens new gold exploration frontier at Santa Fe. Highlights include 6.1 meters of 10.5 grams per ton of gold equivalent, or 7.1% copper equivalent, however you want to look at it. Either one of those numbers is quite impressive. Another of 7.6 meters of 6.9 grams per ton of gold equivalent, 9.6. They had several holes here. I'm not going to read them all out, but all having high grade, whether you look at it at a copper equivalent or a gold equivalent basis. Santa Fe's exploration program maps new frontier for gold exploration via the Agua Paya formation. Agua Paya quartz conglomerate channel samples up to 1.5 grams per ton of gold. Agua Paya formation is a significant contributor to production in the Alto Guapore gold province and regional gold and copper exploration programs expanding with drilling commenced at Sagara. True widths are 85 to 95% of downhole widths. Let's see what the quote from Gilbert Clark. He's the CEO of Meridian, and he stated, and I quote, today's results are confirming that significant near surface extensions of open mineralization extend out from the historic Santa Elena mine. This resource potential I see as being the base of a future second processing hub at Santa Elena, supported by the expanding near mine exploration upside. Santa Fe's first exploration program has hit the Cabasol mine sequence, indicating the presence of a large open hydrothermal system. In addition, Santa Fe's exploration program has opened a new greenfields exploration frontier following the assaying of gold hosted by the overlying and highly prospective Agua Paya Formation. The Agua Paya Formation is a prodigious gold host for the Alto Guapore gold province to the west. Our confidence that the Cabasol gold copper belt is the preeminent VMS gold copper development project of South America has never been stronger. End quote. So then they give you some data on the Santa Elena drilling, and Cabasol is Santa Elena's right here, and Cabasol's up here, and they've got a large land package that basically encapsulates an entire belt of volcanogenic massive sulfide deposits. These things often come in clusters, and these guys have an entire belt that could host a complete cluster of VMS deposits. They give you some more data. I'd advise you to read the news release as always, as this is, helps you to understand what the company is doing. And so that gives you the data on the drilling news. So let's take a look at their stock and see how it reacted to the news. Here's their Toronto Stock Exchange listing. As you can see, they went through a golden cross here. They've been firming up quite nicely and trading significantly above the 50-day moving average since before the golden cross. And today, or the other day, a day ago, they had a pretty significant breakout. Today, they closed at 95 cents. They were flat on the day. Sometimes that's how news is, folks. It takes a little bit of time for news to get fully out to the entire audience. But this project just keeps getting better. It's in Brazil. It's in a mining-friendly jurisdiction of Brazil. Brazil is coming on really strongly. Practically every major mining company is involved in Brazil. And, there's not very many high-grade open pit targets out there. Most of the time, open pits are low grade, but they move big tonnage. It's quite unique to have such a high grade as those that they talked about in the news release. And that's what, is sort of why I've always been excited about Meridian, is because it's an open pit with the high grade gold and silver right starting at the surface. And so that puts them in a pretty exciting scenario for future growth. And so have a look at that. IDEX Metals drills 182.25 meters of 0.32% copper from surface at the Kismet Tourmaline Breccia Freeze Project in Idaho. As they note, they were pleased to announce 182 meters of 0.32% copper from surface. The drill hole intersected variable intervals of oxide copper mineralization beginning at 1.5 meters downhole, so starting right at the surface, with malachite, chalcopyrite, and chrysocolla occurring as supergene replacement of primary chalcopyrite and minor bornite. Uh, KSMT 25001 was targeting the Kismet tourmaline breccia in intervals of historic copper mineralization drilled in 1965. This was, as they say, was only one hole went into this breccia, and breccia is broken up rock that the metals bearing fluids make their way up into. And sometimes these breccia pipes can make for standalone mines, or they can also lead you to the copper porphyry that they came from. The first drill hole at Kismet has expanded the historic mineralization to a minimum depth of 3 to 4 times the historical drilling and has confirmed the existence of mineralized near surface magmatic hydrothermal copper system. They give you a breakdown of the hole. There was some higher grade inside of that hole, and up to 1.44% copper, 1.4% copper, and they have some more details. Variable oxide copper mineralization was intersected from surface and persisted throughout the entire 278-meter length of the KSMT 001 hole. The ground-based magnetotelluric geophysical survey outlined a northwest-southeast trending structural corridor with three major high resistivity anomalies interpreted as potential intrusive centers, spatially associated with Kismet and Cuddy Mountain targets. Cuddy Mine was a past producer that's on the western side of their project, and I'm sure they have a map that shows you where that is. Clayton Fisher, who's the CEO of IDEX Metals, commented, and I quote, "From the very first meter, hole KSMT 25001 has confirmed a mineralized breccia and delivered continuous copper mineralization over its entire length. This result highlights the potential of the freeze property and the Idaho Copper Belt to host large near-surface copper mineralization in a Tier 1 jurisdiction." They give you a breakdown of the hole there. Here is what they were drilling, the holes that they have 2, 3, and 4. They give you a drill hole summary here. Here they give you a cross section of what the hole looked like. Now, I would point out that the distribution of the copper is starting right at surface, and then it gets lower as they go deeper in the hole. And what this you got to understand that breccia pipes can be like a cone, if you will, like an ice cream cone, if you will. And I think that they're on the side of the cone. And this 422-meter hole, I think, will go right into the ice cream cone, if you will. And so I'm watching really closely for that hole to be reported. They do note that they significant amount of breccia, and it looks like maybe they got out of it or starting to get on the other side of the cone over here. Now, oftentimes the center of that cone is what you're really looking for because that's where the highest grades will be. So as you can see, I think they just sort of clipped the edge of the breccia The breccia's in black here, and they caught a little bit more of it down here. So how that is looking in 3 dimensions still remains to be seen. They're very early in this breccia pipe is only seen 2 holes, one in 1965 and now this hole. So, you got to pay attention to the fact that they're very early in the exploration of this hole. Here's a more colored scheme, which gives you some of the geophysical anomalies. I'm more of a fan of chasing mineralization than I am in chasing geophysical anomalies. But there's something happening here that's interesting from a geophysical perspective. Now, Kismet is a pipe, a breccia pipe over here, and over here is the Cuddy mine, a past producer. That's going to be another focus of their drilling. Um, this is a resistivity isosurfaces, so they give you some idea here. Again, let me see it in a drill hole. That's what's most important to me. It's called the truth machine for a reason, and you want to see how it lines up with the geophysics and the drill hole. But what I would point out is that it seems to be picking up that Cuddy Mount mine quite significantly. So I'll be interested to see them drill that Cuddy mine. All right, let's take a look at their stock chart because they just got hammered on this news. I think the market was looking for higher grade. As you can see, they've only been trading for a couple of months, but as they announced this, the stock just got absolutely hammered. It was down 51.15%. This could be an overreaction, folks, because again, when you're looking at the shape of a breccia pipe, it's important whether you're on the edges of the pipe or in the guts of the pipe. So I'll be interested in that next hole, which really starts to test the guts of the pipe. And to dismiss 0.36% copper over a very significant intersection is a little misguided because that's what makes up copper mines these days. And so to have that mineralization starting right at surface, plus the breccia pipe is not the real goal of this. It's finding the porphyry that comes from. So, I want to see more of the guts of the breccia pipe to really have an idea whether this breccia pipe is no good or could be really good, or if it will lead them to a higher grade porphyry. And so we need more data before we can make those kind of conclusions. But no, I think that they've got something here. How significant? Well, maybe they got overbought and now they're getting oversold. I noticed that it stopped right at the 50-day moving average, which is interesting on itself. Yeah, that's the news from the folks at IDEX. I'm gonna try. I'm having a little bit of problem with my screen here. Let me see. I think if I do this, just bear with me a second. There we go. All righty. That's better. Okay, so the next company up is Tectonic. Now, you've never heard me talk about Tectonic. They're in Alaska, but I've been following this company. They've got a lot of alluvial mining, at surface mining has been done on this project in creeks, and there's been a lot of it done on their property. And so now they're drilling to try to find the where that gold at the surface came from. So Tectonic intersects 2.23 grams per ton of gold over 41.15 meters, including 4 grams per ton of gold over 21 meters, with 13.25 grams per ton of gold over 4.57 meters in first 2025 RC drill hole at the Flat Gold Project. Um, Flat represents a significant reduced intrusion related gold system, or RIRGS, district in North America, hosting multiple kilometer scale gold targets across a 99,000 acre land position. Alpha Bowl, measuring 1.5 kilometers by 1 kilometer, is a completely blind to surface target tested systematically for the first time in 2025. It also hosts one of Alaska's most prolific placer gold creeks, with over 650,000 ounces of recorded historic production, and represents the northern extension of the Chicken Mountain. Flat's largest intrusion target, 6.5 kilometers by 6 kilometers, where currently over 3 kilometers of drilled mineralized strike length demonstrates the potential for an open pit, free milling, heap leachable gold mining opportunity. Then they give you the data on the drilling. Another significant gold zone was intersected at the top of this drill hole, returning 0.58 grams per ton of gold over 45.72 meters. Systematic fence drilling across a 600 meter by 700 meter area with approximately 100 meters spacing was designed to evaluate scale, grade, continuity, and structural orientation of mineralization. Hole 035 was drilled on the eastern edge of the northernmost drill fence and intended to provide data on the eastern extent of the Alpha Bowl gold system. Uh, they give you a bunch more details here. I'm going to go to the quote from Tony Reda, who's the co-founder, president, and CEO of Tectonic Metals. He commented, and I quote, "Sometimes the biggest opportunities reveal themselves where you least expect them. Alpha Bowl is a blind target, and yet in only a few drill holes, we've been able to intersect high-grade gold mineralization. Hole CMR 25-035 was drilled to test the edge of the Alpha Bowl system, but instead it delivered over 40 meters of 2.23 grams per ton of gold, including 21 meters of 4 grams per ton gold and a peak of 13.25 grams per ton gold over 4.57 meters. These initial drill results tell us three things. First, we have not defined the eastern edge of this system. Secondly, we are only beginning to tap into its true potential. Third, high grade gold is present and possibly at scale. With assays pending from 47 additional holes from phase one and phase two drilling underway, we are entering an even more exciting period of discovery and growth. Shareholders can look forward to a steady cadence of results as we advance what we believe will be a pivotal year for the Flat Gold Project." End quote. So as you can see there, it's the first hole of many. They have 47 additional holes from phase one pending. The assays are pending on that. They're starting up their phase two drilling, and they have a bunch of highlights, and they think that it could be a breakthrough year. And, that could very well be true because they spent a lot of time preparing for this drilling and are hitting the ground running from this program. So, yeah, I've been following the company for some time now, waiting to see these assay results. And now that they're starting to get them, looking really good. So let's take a look at their stock chart before we move on to the next company. Their stock symbol is TECT, the first four letters in their name, Tectonic Metals. And as you can see, the market liked the news. They were up 18.18% today, or 22 cents a share to $1.43. They have broken out after basing on their 50-day moving average. As people were waiting for these assay results, they had a pretty significant breakout, and even today, even more significant breakout. So as you can see, they're trading about 43 cents above their 50-day moving average and over double their 200-day moving average. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of news coming out of this company, and I suspect you should do your homework on the company. I'm going to be continuing to watch these drill results as they come out. Heck of a good start for their performance and on the drilling, which is the most important thing to me. All right, Barrick. Barrick Mining Corporation announces sale of Hemlo for up to 1.09 billion. They've reached an agreement to sell Hemlo Gold Mine in Canada to Carcetti Capital Corp, which is to be renamed Hemlo Mining Corp upon closing of the transaction. The sale agreement provides for gross proceeds of up to 1.09 billion dollars US, consisting of cash consideration of 875 million due on closing. HMC shares will, with an aggregate value of 50 million, based on the same price per HMC subscription receipt under the concurrent equity offering announced by HMC to be issued by HMC to Barrick on closing. So Barrick will also get a significant amount of stock, a production and tiered gold price linked cash payment structure of up to 165 million starting in January of 27 for a 5-year term. HMC is currently listed on the NEX board of the Vancouver or TSX Venture Exchange and expects to graduate to the TSX Venture in connection with its acquisition of Hemlo. HMC has a management team and board of directors with significant operational experience with mining assets in Canada, including Robert Quartermain, who was CEO of SSR Mining, that was formerly Silver Standard, and founder of Pretium Resources. My audience will know Pretium very well because I picked it early in their success and followed them through to their takeover at about $19 a share. Robert Quartermain is a very talented mining executive, and he's going to be part of this, and who also played a key role in the discovery and delineation of Hemlo while working for Teck Resources as a geologist. So Robert Quartermain knows this project from its earliest days through to the many years of production, and now is going back to his roots, if you will. HMC is also backed by a consortium of investors focused on North American resource development, including Wheaton Precious Metals and Orion Mine Finance Management. There's a quote from Mark Bristow, who's the CEO, and he stated, and I quote, of Barrick, sorry. He stated, and I quote, the sale of Hemlo at an attractive valuation marks the close of Barrick's long and successful chapter at the mine and underscores our disciplined focus on building value through our Tier 1 gold and copper portfolio. We are confident that HMC's experienced management and the existing Hemlo team will be excellent stewards of the asset, unlock its future potential, and continue to deliver benefits for all stakeholders. Together with the sales of Donlin and Alturas, total gross proceeds from the divestment of non-core assets this year are expected to generate over 2 billion, end quote. So Barrick has been selling off non-core assets. Hemlo is one of them. What is a non-core asset for a company the size of Barrick will be a core asset for the newly named Hemlo Metals. What is the official name? Hemlo Gold Mine. and sorry, Hemlo Mining Corporation. That will be the new company. Let's have a look at Barrick quickly. ABX. This is their Toronto listing. They've been performing very well of late. They were kind of a chronic underperformer relative to their peers, but this divestment seemed to be giving them new attention, as is the price movement in gold. So yeah, there you go. That's an interesting one for Canadians like me. Hemlo has a fantastic legacy. It went from tremendous discovery that the shareholders made a bunch of money in. Hemlo mined it for a long time. Yeah, there you go. That's the Hemlo moves on to Hemlo Mining Corporation from Barrick. All right. So now I'm going to get into some of my I'm seeing a trend happening that some of the companies that I follow in the news show and in my weekend shows tend to have very good performance after they appear in the shows. Now, of course, that has to do a lot with the news that the companies put out. And Goliath Resources had very good news on Monday, and as you can see, they've made a significant breakout um, to new multi-year highs of over $3 a share. Today they were up 6.71%. And yesterday they were up as well. And on Monday they were up nicely as well. So they've kind of moved up from around $2.34 a few days ago all the way up to $3.02. And I find this to be a very important breakout that I've commented on in some of my social media posts. And they've only reported 14 holes from 100 and I think it's 115 ultimate holes that will be drilled. They're doing 60,000 meters of drilling. So they got a lot of holes pending. I think they will be putting out news for the well into 2026. And out of those 14 holes, they're having very good results from that. And so, yeah, I think that this is a very substantial breakout as they've started to report their assay results from the 2025 drilling campaign. This is my highest conviction gold explorer with an important discovery pick. And what stands out to me, and you'll see if you go into their news release from a couple days ago, there's one map in particular that I really emphasize, and it's the one that is at the top of their news release. It shows the sherbet, or what I call the golden gold mountain, that's full of spaced, widely distributed visible gold in drill holes. And that makes this a very unique discovery. You don't see that kind of distribution of visible gold very often. I think it's becoming the most important high grade gold discovery since Bruce Jack and maybe even the famous Eskay Creek discovery. Both of those were very high grade gold systems. And that's sort of what the Golden Triangle of British Columbia is well known for. Yeah, with lots of holes pending, I think that they have many catalysts ahead of them. So take a look at Goliath. That was a star performer from my Monday in the news show. Another star performer from my Monday show was Newfound Gold. Here they are. And as you can see, they've recently went through a golden cross. They bottomed back here at around $1.33. They closed today at $2.95, up 5.36% or 15 cents a share. They had news out on Friday and Monday. On Friday, they announced that they're taking over another company that has milling capacity and upside mining potential at the takeover company's project. And then on Monday, they announced that they took over a company with a large land package near their key project called Queensway. And so they're acquiring assets, ground, and milling capacity. They're moving the project towards production. They're doing a lot of drilling. So this is another company with a tremendous amount of catalysts. And I made them official pick a few days before they went through their Golden Cross. And I expect with all the news that they have upcoming, that you could see this 50-day moving average move significantly above the 200-day moving average. So I'm very bullish on what I'm seeing from Newfound Gold. Another star performer from my Monday show was Northisle Copper and Gold. I recently did an interview with Northisle, and as you can see on Monday, they broke out quite significantly and they've retained that gain. Today they were flat on the day, up 0.00% on 600,000 shares of trading. I'm a big fan of this project. I talked about it quite extensively with their CEO, Sam Lee, about a week ago or so. And so I'd advise you to take a look at that news release or sorry, that interview and their recent news release that went out on Monday, because they had a lot of really good information in that news release. So that's the North Isle story. Juggernaut Exploration also had important news out on Monday, and their stock broke out quite substantially for 2 straight days. And when I see a company break out like this, I often watch for the profit taking after the breakout. And when they have a very mild profit taking, I take that as a very bullish sign. So after such a significant move, they were only down 3.28%, or 4 cents a share to $1.18. Now, this company has what I think will be a very important discovery. They have only done surface sampling so far, but they have tremendous indicators that they've got a huge system here. And so over the winter time, I think you'll have opportunities to buy this stock, maybe a little less than it is right now. And I think this is one you want to take a position in. And you could probably do it in a staged way, maybe take 25% and then another 25, another 25, and another 25. A couple of those could be over the winter. And then as they get closer to drilling in the spring. But I think that this one has all the hallmarks of making an important discovery and really quickly. I'm a big fan of their technical team that's involved with this program. I'm a big fan of what they have found so far. And do your homework on Juggernaut, because I think they've got a very bright future when they get drilling their Big One project. All right. The next company, oh, sorry, is SM. SM had news out, and on Monday as well that I followed on the show. Sierra Madre Gold and Silver. I'm a big fan of the way that this company is going about growing from a small junior into a much more substantial junior. Now, when they do that, they're early days of mining, so they're they are doing things, and I'm going to talk about them because they had a really good presentation at Beaver Creek. And over the next few days, you're going to hear me talk about some of these presentations. And they had a very good one out But I'm going to talk about that on another show, not this show. But as it was very well received because they were up 13% sorry, 13% today, or 13 cents per share to $1.13. And I attribute that to recent news as well as this presentation that their CEO gave at the Beaver Creek Mining Conference, and it was very well received in the market today. He did it earlier in the day, and I'm going to talk about that on a future show. Over the next like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I have found some really good presentations at Beaver Creek, including Sierra Madres, and I'm going to talk about what stands out to me from those presentations. Okay, so I don't want to spoil that too much, but there's a little heads up for you. Um, Black Blackrock Silver has a very exciting project to me that it came off on the news of an updated mineral resource estimate. And I think that the market didn't really understand that they're doing two efforts or two mineral resource estimates. One is to add confidence to the known, what is now about 115 million ounces of silver. And they brought more of that into the indicated category. And that's what the focus of that mineral resource estimate is. The second one is that they're doing expansion. Okay. So I think that maybe the market was looking for more expansion information about the resource. And but this one was really about upping the confidence by bringing resources from inferred uh, into indicated. And so, yeah, but they had a good presentation out and today at the Beaver Creek conference, and the market responded to it quite nicely. They were up 6.15% or 4 cents a share to 69 cents. This is a very high grade silver development project. I hope that the management really starts to talk more about bringing this project into production. It is the kind of project that could make them into a mid-tier silver mining company. And as I see silver is going to go up a lot, they've got a good mix of silver and gold. So as gold and silver go up in value, it helps the economics of their project. That's in Tonopah, Nevada, because it's right beside the town of Tonopah, which is built because of the mining that was done on their property and to the east of their property. Um, it has very good access, and that helps dramatically with the economics. When you don't have to build a camp out of in the middle of nowhere, and you can have your people sleeping right in beds in the town of Tonopah, it attracts key people, it attracts mining people, and because of these economics, it is the kind of thing that a junior explorer could develop into a mine. It's not one of these $1 billion capex builds. And I think they're looking at about a couple 100 million. So I hope that this company management really starts to focus on telling the story that they want to bring this project into production themselves. I think it is something a junior could do. I think it would help them grow, maximize their value, and get the most out of their asset. They could, of course, get taken over, but if they get taken over, it's going to be at a discount to what they would get if they were a mining company. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about their talking about the potential to bring this into production themselves. All righty. So, um, I wanted to talk about Equinox because I sort of picked them as a turnaround story. And in a very short period of time, they are turning around in a dramatic way. They were up 8.2% today, or $1.13 a share to $14.91. Why I picked them when they were down here around their 50-day moving average was because I was really impressed when they changed management and brought in Darren Hall as the CEO. He's a very talented mining guy, and very quickly they were having some early growing pains at their Greenstone mine in Ontario. And he quickly, like within days, if you will, or a week or two, made some really important changes to the operations at Greenstone as it's ramping up to full commercial production. And in their first announcement from that, they saw a significant improvement, which helped them have a breakout. And now they're getting close. They're starting to get closer to commercial production and full commercial production at their second important mine, which is Valentine Lake in or Valentine Mine in Newfoundland. So when they get these two projects up to full commercial production, they will be over a 1 million ounce annual producer and a low cost producer at that. And so as they were bringing Greenstone into production, they kind of were going sideways. And now that it's getting into full commercial production, they're starting to go up the right side of the Lassonde curve. And that could be turbocharged because they got two really substantial mines coming into full commercial production simultaneously. And so I'm very bullish on Equinox and what they're doing there. Okay. Norsemont, NOM is their stock symbol. That's the last company I'm going to talk about today. It's certainly not last but least kind of a scenario because I think this company is a tremendous value proposition. And why I say that is that they have a project in Chile that was a past producing mine. It currently has a resource of about 2.7 million ounces of gold. I think with a strategic drill campaign that they can substantially increase that resource. And the reason I say that is the emplacement of the gold near the surface. Remember, folks, that 2.7 million ounces resource is all within the first 80 meters from the starting right at the surface to about 80 meters. But the emplacement of that gold into that near surface resource was vertical emplacement. And almost all of the holes in the past have been done with vertical holes, which is not optimal when you've got vertical. You could drill right beside a vein, if you will, that comes up vertically, and it looks like so-so, or maybe even next to nothing. But in reality, if you drill an angled hole, you might find, oh, well, actually, that vein is much thicker than our resource modeled it. Our resource modeler block modeled it. And in fact, there's a lot more ounces there. So I think with a very strategic drill program, it will be a high impact. Now, another important thing about this resource is that it's got 2.25 million or about 2.25 million ounces, which are categorized as sulfide. Now, when people hear sulfide, they think refractory. And what that means is that the gold is encapsulated inside of a sulfide mineral, and you need high pressure and high temperature in order to extract that gold out of the sulfide. But what is in their Ni National Instrument 43101 technical report that you can find on their website is that report talks about how 60 to 70% of the gold is actually attached to sulfides, not encapsulated in sulfides. This is really important stuff, folks, because by doing a cheap metallurgical work that's about, let's say, $300,000, you can then show people that actually this is more like free gold than sulfide gold or refractory gold. And that is a big improvement to that resource, the sulfide portion of that resource. Now, they also have about 400,000 or 500,000 of oxide gold, so that's heap leachable. So they've got a lot of interesting levers to unlock value at their project in Chile. Plus, they've got a lot of exploration potential. There's an alteration zone that's got to be about 8,000 meters long, all within the key claims on their project. And a lot of that has these, what are called in Chile, presidential decrees that are the mining permits and the exploration permits that are constitutionally protected. And so they've got a lot of catalyst, and yet the company still only has a $69 million valuation, only 81 million shares out, and insiders own a significant portion. Recently, they did a $6 million financing to the likes of Rob McEwen, uh, Dr. Quinton Henney. He's a key person at a fund called Crescat. Crescat also came in. Larry Lepard came in. He's a famous, well-known investor, as did Paul Matisic. Paul Matisic is a serial mining entrepreneur that has built and sold for billions of dollars companies in the mining space. And so when you start attracting people like that to a project, it's because the project has tremendous merits to it. And that's what Choque Limpe has. And I'm very excited about the work that they're going to do with the $6 million that they just raised. And so you want to take a look at Norsemont because I think it offers, as I said, a tremendous value proposition. All right, that's the show for today. As always, do your homework. Speak with your financial advisors before making any investment decisions. A lot of the companies that I've talked about here today, I've done interviews with them. So you can go to my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News. Just do a Google search or a YouTube search for Rocks and Stocks News, and you'll find all my shows on there. That's a good place to do your homework. I'm a big proponent of investors in any sector doing their homework because the more well informed you are, the more you will avoid emotional decisions based on short term fluctuations in stock prices, and you'll understand your companies better that you own shares in, so you'll make less emotional decisions and more logical, rational decisions. And I think that's an important thing to do no matter what sector you invest in. So, on that note, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.